Welcome to the Woman of Power channel. This channel is designed to motivate and inspire you. I am so honored tonight to have our special guest, Chocolate K. Jordan, aka Chocolate, is a multi-talented and gifted. She is the elder social worker and a model and is the four-time title holder. She is the founder of several dance ministry in motion. Move No Longer Suffering in Silent platform, Project Love Raps, More Passionate Than Ruby. She's has the spirit of love, compassion, serving. And I just love this woman of God. Thank you for being on, Chocolate. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Tonight we're going to be talking about navigating through life difficulty. Sometimes that is so difficult for us to navigate through life. Navigate through life involve a combination of internal strategies and external support system. And we have to have that to even make it through life. And Chocolate, you are a living testimony how you can navigate through life and make it. So let us just hear your story tonight.
Yes, ma'am. So my journey through navigating through life began very early in life, from birth until present day, 47 years of navigating through various difficulties, right? But the one that probably stands out the most, that is most common that I speak in reference to, is the sexual abuse. My sexual abuse journey started from the age of 5 until I was 13. And the reason why it lasts so long is because there were so many things that was happening in my life and in my community. So, for example, I was being sexually assaulted by a neighbor who grew up like a cousin. This was my mother's very good friend's child. And so we all grew up like relatives, like big cousins, little cousins. And so my mother worked several jobs. And one of the jobs that she worked, she had to work at night. And so I was being babysat by this older relative
Mhm.
daughter. However, the son would sexually assault me and the bio cousin in the evening. Now, what made this situation very unique is because when the street lights came on, all of the young people had to go in the house. And so, what it seemed to be for me is that when the street lights came on, all of the young people was experiencing what I was experiencing. Does that make sense?
Wow,
Because
wow.
every young person in the community, on the block, in the neighborhood, knew to run home when the street lights came on. You either had to be on your porch or you had to be in the house. And so my thought was when I went into this relative's house, that what was happening to me was happening throughout the community because it wasn't just happening to me in that home, but it was also happening to my best friend who we acknowledged each other as cousins as well. And so this went on for years until things started escalating as we were developing into young women. The older relative decided to kind of up the ante, if I can use that kind of terminology,
Mhm.
and started exploring more and more. And eventually, in my mind and my body began to say to each other, "This can't be too right. This isn't love. Love shouldn't feel like this. Love does not inflict pain. And this is kind of painful. This is not what I want for my life." And it was at that point that I began to really fight for my virginity. There was a lot of touching and a lot of groping, but I wanted to make sure that when things started to register that this is not right, there it wouldn't go any further, that there wouldn't be any official penetration. And I began to fight. And as the fighting journey began and he became more aggressive, I recognized that this was beyond because there was some threatening. So this was beyond what is the normal. This is beyond normal behavior. This is beyond normal activities that is happening in other people's homes because I shouldn't feel like I can't tell my mom. I shouldn't feel that if I do say something to my mom, my mother is going to be harmed or my brother is going to be harmed. And so that went on up until the age of 13 when I mustered enough courage, strength, and tenacity to say, no more, no
So tell
more.
me something. While this was happening to you, what were you feeling? What was happening to you?
I had a lot of mixed emotions. My body was responding one way, but my head was responding something totally different. For as much as in my mind, I didn't like what was happening, my body was responding in a positive signal. So it was kind of very confusing as a child. Because your body is saying, this feels pleasurable, but your mind is saying, I don't like what's happening. So I was really at a crossroad and the more I prayed, the more I was seeking the Lord because I grew up Catholic. I grew up in the church. I had the best of both worlds. My father's side was Baptist, my mother's side was Catholic. So I experienced both churches on a given Sunday. So I understood the word of God, but I didn't understand what was happening to me, why God was allowing it to happen to me, and how long I was supposed to endure this as a kid.
And
But I will say, I'm sorry.
at times, at those tender age, you don't know what's happening to you. You feel scared and you don't know how to tell somebody. Because in your
Exactly.
mind, you're thinking nobody's going to believe
To
this is
believe
happening.
me. Yes.
Yeah.
And not only that, but verbiage is very important. And I remember going through DARE, right? This was a Philadelphia Police Athletic League associated program that was springing up in a lot of the schools, right? And the DARE representative that we had was talking about good touch and bad touch. And I had heard that all of my childhood, good touch and bad
Hmm.
touch, good touch and bad touch.
Yeah.
And I sat in a class and I'm thinking, as I'm so confused because I remember my body being stimulated. And of course, I didn't know all of those words, but I remember my body responding in a certain way. And I remember thinking a different way as this is happening. And then having conversations with my best friend, who, we were forced to do things to each other. He was doing things to us. And we would have conversations later on and we agreed that we didn't like it, but neither one of us knew what to do about it, right? So
Right.
I'm sitting in this DARE class and they're talking about good touch, bad touch. And finally, I say to the DARE representative, I raised my hand and they called upon me and I said, how do you identify good touch versus bad touch when your body says that it's good, but your mind is saying, your brain is saying that it's not?
Right.
And the DARE representatives were stunned, right? And they looking at each other like, I think we may have a problem on our hands.
Hmm.
And so, for as much as they really tried to answer the question, they were talking in a loop and in a circle. And I had even more questions. And eventually, they dismissed their session and they pulled me out of class and they began to question me. And they brought my teacher into the hallway, and my teacher then began to listen. And I didn't want to express too much because again, I don't know these people. And I
Right.
don't know how much trouble I'm going to get
Gonna
into,
get into
right?
yeah, yeah.
So I was very vague with what I was saying. And later that evening, my teacher called my home and she spoke with me and she asked the most important question. Is someone touching you that you don't want to touch you? And my answer was yes. And she said, is it happening in your home? And my answer was no. And
Wow.
that's how it then was exposed to a degree. She made me promise that I would tell. And eventually, she gave me some time over the weekend. And eventually, I ended up telling only because when I went to go get babysat that night, things escalated out of control.
And I know that was the hardest part of this to tell because you were wondering, is the person that I'm going to tell going to believe what I'm saying? So I know that was a difficult point of telling. So tell us what happened when you did tell.
So when we told, because what happened was I ended up telling my cousin, my best friend, and we agreed. We agreed to disagree, but we were kids, so we didn't know that terminology. But I wanted to tell, she did not. She was already being physically abused by her family. And so that would have opened more doors for her in terms of the physical abuse outside of the sexual abuse. But for me, I was not enduring that at home. And so I felt like I had nothing to lose at this point, you know.
Right.
And so when my aunt came down, I said, we have something we need to tell you. And my cousin was looking like, no, you got something you need to say. But
Yeah.
lo and behold, I shared. I got dismissed from my aunt's home. I was forced to go home. I went home. But by then, my mother was on her way home. So I picked the perfect time to tell. But
Good.
my mother was on her way home. So I went home. And I was told to go upstairs. So I went upstairs in my mother's room. And her and my aunt had a conversation. And my cousin and I, we were on the phone and we're crying and, you know, the whole nine. We're at this point, we believe that we're not going to be able to be friends or see each other. And
Right.
eventually my mother calls me and she comes upstairs. I get off the phone and she assures me that it's not my fault, that I didn't
Right.
do anything wrong, that it was her job and her responsibility to protect me. And she said that, and you know, she felt like she failed in that sense. As a result of what had transpired, I would no longer be allowed to go down there to play or to stay the night out. Um, and so that definitely threw a ripple in my best friend and I relationship. Um, she was allowed to come to my house, but I wasn't allowed to go to hers.
Right.
Um, and so, you know, the unfairity on my part for that, you don't understand that as a kid.
Right.
So slowly but surely, our relationship from being best friends just kind of extended to us just being cousins. And so that's, you know, how the chips fell. In regards to my sexual assaultant, it was suggested by his mother that he didn't do it, but that she felt like her boyfriend at the time may have been the perpetrator. In
Mm.
fact, we were very clear on who was touching us.
Right.
Um, but in turn, she ended up marrying him some years later. So if you
Wow.
thought he was the perpetrator, you should have ended it. You're talking about your nieces. These are children from the age of 5 until 13, continuously, just about every day. If
Wow.
you thought he was the perpetrator, why did you marry him? Because you
Right.
knew in your heart that he wasn't. He
And you know,
wasn't.
there is a lot of questions. There's a lot of question that we ask. Even in that term, you know, she married your perpetrator that did that to you. Now, in terms of, I'm gonna say this because there's a lot of ladies that is watching this podcast today, and they're in this situation now, and they don't know how to get navigate through it. What would you tell them?
The first thing I would say is when you're weak, the Lord is strong, and you take your strength from the Lord. The second thing is to tell a trusted friend. Sometimes you just got to get it off of you and get that reassurance that it's not your fault. And then tell the authorities. That's one thing that I wish my mother had have done. Because as a
Yeah.
result, a young woman lost her life due to his hands, right? Some years later. And I kind of lived with a little bit of guilt from
Mhm.
16 until I was about 20 with that. So I would say, you know, take courage and take your strength from the Lord. Tell a
Mhm.
trusted friend for
Yes.
reassurance. And then
Mhm.
together, you and that trusted friend go to the authorities because a closed mouth never gets fed, and no one can um, do anything about your situation in protecting you but you. And the
That's it.
first, the first act of protecting yourself is to make sure that you go to the authorities so that you can get the proper protection. I can't say that we were properly protected after we told. There was some harassment that took place after that. And then eventually it died down. But I want to say for about 8 months to a year, there was a lot of calls that came through. They would yell obscenities, and you knew it was a man, you knew it was a boy's voice.
Right.
Just a lot of harassment, like bullying and scare tactics. But at that point, I wasn't afraid of you because the things that you said would happen to my family did not.
Right.
So I wasn't afraid. Yeah.
Tonight we're talking about navigating through the life difficulty. And I just want you to know that you're not alone in this.
No,
You're
you're
not
not.
alone in this. And when you get abused, you feel alone, that you're nobody gonna want to talk to you. Everybody's gonna blame you. But it's a fall evidence, peering real. It's not so. It's not so. Sometimes fear cause us not to do the things that we need to do. So it's a false evidence appearing real that people don't want to talk to you. Are they not going to understand what you're going through? Are they not going to believe you? So I would encourage whoever is watching this podcast that you're not alone first. And that's very important to have someone to talk to, someone that you feel that you're safe with, that is going to help you through this. And being abused leave a low self-esteem on you at times. You're going to feel like you're not worth anything. And sometimes your perpetrator will tell you that. Nobody else going to want you. Nobody else going to love you as he loves you. But that's a lie. You need to talk about this. We're talking about navigating through life difficulty. And Chocolate, I want you to tell the people a little bit because you have been going through so much and God has been so good to you. You are a living witness that prayer, that perseverance, determination works. I want you to touch a little bit because you have been going through a sickness that have been plaguing you for years. But to look at you, you would never believe you're going through this. So touch a little bit on that sickness.
Um, so it's interesting that you say that sickness because it's a series of things, right?
Mhm.
I have autoimmunity diseases, right? And let me take the labels off, okay? Because I walk in my healing, so I don't have anything, but I have been diagnosed with three forms of autoimmunity diseases. So one is angioedema. The other is a rheumatoid arthritis, the autoimmunity form of it, and then lupus. So, no, don't look like what I battle with, not at all.
Mhm.
And that is a prayer that I have unto the Lord. God, I don't want to look like what I'm going through. I pray for strength. I pray for healing all the time. I'm not going to tell you that I was not on a slew of medications. If you
Mhm.
named it, I probably took it, right? But it was at some point where I started having seizures from a car accident. And what comes along with seizures is loss of memory. And
Mhm.
some of the side effects from some of the various medications that I'm on contributes to that too. So periodically, I would forget to take the medications that I needed to take for all of the various things that I battle with: endometriosis, chronic asthma, chronic allergies. Migraine disorder. So I would forget to take the medication. And I was just navigating through life just on a wing and a prayer, but trusting and believing God. And when I realized that one day I happened to look in my kitchen where I kept all of my meds, and I was like, I have not touched this thing in about 6 months.
Wow.
I had totally forgot. And I was like, I've been walking in my healing. I've been walking by faith. God has answered my prayer. He has healed my body. And I began to Give him all kinds of praise and all kinds of glory and adoration in the whole nine, because what the doctor said that I couldn't do, I was doing. And not only was I doing it, I was doing it off of medication. So
Wow.
at that point, it was like, you can't tell me what I can't do. When the Lord says that I can do all things through him who gives me strength. And God has given me the strength to be able to do these things outside of taking 25 to 30 pills a day.
Wow.
And that's
Yeah.
just keeping it light, right?
Yeah.
And so when I realized that, I was like, God, I don't want to be naive. So I know that I have to keep refilling this medication. I know I have to. But I still want to stand on your word. I want to stand on your promise. I want to stand on every word that has been prophesied over me in terms of my healing. And I want to continue to walk in it. Were there some setbacks? Well, of course, because immediately when I acknowledged the Lord for that, the enemy came in, right? And there
Mm-hmm.
was some setbacks. I ended up being hospitalized, and then they found out I wasn't taking my medication. Because you know they can test all of that through your blood and all. Right? And so I was like, it's okay, God. I was knocked down, but I wasn't knocked out. That has been my theme for everything. Totally determined, may have been knocked down, but I am not knocked out. And so I got up, I dust myself off. I started on the regimen of taking the medication. Because of course, when you have a slip up, you know you got to get back on your swing of things, right? So when you're discharged from the hospital, they give you all of these different instructions, and you want to oblige. So I did. And then over a period of time, you forget. You hit a day, you miss a day. You hit a day, you miss 3 days. You hit a day, you miss a week. And that just went on until I just realized, when I'm having a rough day or rough week, I will take the medication as such. But for as long as things are going well, I walk in my faith, I walk in power, I walk in healing. I trust the Lord. I speak his word over my life. I do get the medication refill so that I have it
Right.
handy, but my
Yes.
doctors are aware that I'm not taking this medication every day. And the truth of the matter is, I was having more side effects to the medications than I was having positive effects to the medications.
Wow.
So, yeah.
We are God is so good to each and every one of us. And I will encourage anyone that is watching this podcast that God is able to do exceedingly
Yeah.
abundantly of all that you could ask or think. Navigating through difficult time of your life, keep on praying. Keep on believing, keep on trusting. Just as we're talking now, God is hearing your prayer. He said He will never leave you, He
Yeah.
will not forsake you, He will be with you no matter what
No matter
the
what,
situation
the
is.
end of
So
time.
you can navigate through the difficult part of your life. Is in that time when difficulties happen, you need to hold on to your faith and trust that God is with you. Now, Chocolate, we want you to close us out and just say an encouraging word to someone that is watching this podcast.
Encouraging word that I can give is one, be your authentic self. Regardless of what that may look like to others, be who you are in Christ Jesus, because he called you to be the unique form of who you are. Everybody else is already taken. The other thing is the key to navigating through difficulties is to have a prayer life, to commune with God, to keep your hand in his hand, because he stilled the waters. And if he controlled the winds and the waves, he can control every situation, circumstance that comes your way. And the other thing is keep a praise upon your tongue and a dance under your feet. Those things have kept me through. I dance before the Lord as if no one is watching but him. And I render praises unto the Lord, whether it is a joyful sound to someone else or not, it is a joyful sound unto the Lord. Those are the things that has kept me grounded and has kept me through. I don't go through circumstances, I grow through. So stop saying that we're going through. You're not going through, you're growing through. And be totally determined to walk in your healing by faith. It is by your faith that you will be made whole. And so God desires to heal you, but it is according to your faith. So walk through this journey, trusting, believing, and being assured that God will give you the strength to get through. I love you. If no one has ever told you that they love you today, I love you. And I'm proud of the steps that you are taking. Take it step by step, moment by moment, minute by minute, and journey by journey. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Chocolate, for being on today. Thank you for watching the Woman of Power podcast. We ask if you like this podcast to subscribe, like, and share with someone else. Know that you are blessed and highly favored by God, and you are beautiful and wonderfully made. Until next time, may God bless you.
God bless you.